Yeah. Okay to start? Good. Okay, welcome everybody to this, I hope, very exciting panel discussion. My name is Ajay Kapur, and I'll be hosting this session. We'll be looking into the world's most interesting hotel designs. And we'll be looking into what the favorites are of our panel members, who I'll introduce in a moment. And we'll also try to figure out why these are their favorites and what is important in hotel design. For the ones that don't know me yet, my name is Ajay Kapur. I teach at Hotel School The Hague. I'm also a former alumnus of Hotel School The Hague, and have broad experience in hospitality, but also higher education. And I really enjoy having these panel sessions, because first of all, I learn a lot every time I have one of these sessions. And secondly, I get to meet lovely new people. So let's introduce our panel members at first. First of all, Pauline, could you shortly introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Pauline Egge, and 14 years ago I launched my website called the Petite Passport. It's a platform for design travelers via a site, social media channels with more than 100,000 followers, and a series of travel guides. I inspire my readers to travel to the most amazing places on earth. And in about 2 weeks, my new book will be coming out. It's called Design Stays, and it's all about the 45 most beautiful hotels and guest houses here in Europe. That's it.
And I'm sure we'll see one or two examples later on of these hotels.
Yeah.
Great. Astrid.
My name is Astrid Piber. I'm a partner at UNStudio, and UNStudio is a multidisciplinary design firm, started from architecture and infrastructure, but we do work across the scales. And I myself have built experience not just in Europe, but also in working on projects in Asia and the US. And upon the question from Ajay, which is your most favorite hotel, I had to think back, like, how would you design the most amazing hotel? And
we'll see that soon.
so I won't answer your question.
Okay, keep them in suspense. Good. Thank you, Astrid. Edward.
Edward Leenders. Great pleasure to be here, and thank you for coming to see us. I'm a bit of a modern nomad. I was lucky enough to leave the Netherlands in 1997. Been involved in different hotel projects around the world. Worked 13 years for Roccaforte Hotels, amongst others in London, and opened a few properties in Italy for them. Was lucky enough to work with some very talented people in the project of De l'Europe. We managed to reposition De l'Europe and refurbish De l'Europe completely here in Amsterdam. That was the one moment. I worked in the Netherlands, and now I work for Corinthia. We're opening the Corinthia in Brussels.
Okay, thank you. So what we'll do at this panel session is, obviously, we'll have a discussion amongst each other, but we'll first start off with showing some slides of beautiful designs of hotels. And I would like to ask Astrid to first explain a bit. You can take the clicker.
Okay. UNStudio is currently working across the globe, really global. We have 7 offices right now and 400 people. The headquarters here around the corner at Stadhouderskade in Amsterdam. Design is all about people, and we are known for projects like the Mercedes-Benz Museum or the Transfer Hall in Arnhem. And you wonder, what does that have to do with hospitality? Everything. It's about people. So also for a small landmark project at the airport or a headquarter for Booking.com, it's really about people that build a community, that are at the same place at the same time, do something together, share some interests, get inspired, come back, don't come back, talk about it, write about it, but it brings people together. And what we do as architects and designers is to create the right context, the background for these communities. And sometimes these communities get really, really large. Like 2 of our largest mixed-use projects, they are 400,000 square meters. One that I have led is the Raffles City in Hangzhou, which includes a Conrad hotel in the top and the Beulah in Melbourne. They are huge cities. People can live there 24/7. What does that have with hospitality, with the human scale? And it's massive projects. There are more and more. But for us to start even designing those, it's very important to start from the human scale. And today, I didn't choose a favorite hotel or 3 favorite hotels. I chose to explain how we developed our design methodology to cater to diverse concepts of hospitality and design for diverse communities, because you can't influence it. What you design now will be built in 10 years. People change, society changes. So how do you build the right framework for that? And this is maybe a bit small to read, but it's sort of a method that we have developed for a customer journey, for a project in the Middle East, where we are looking at what are the activities that the potential users of that hotel would need, and what are the outdoor uses, what are the things they would do outside the hotel, and how does it connect to the inside. And from those, as an example, we look at these customer journeys in more detail. Like, what is it that people need to enhance their experience? Is it some activity? Is it silence? Is it a good view? Is it the good bed? Like, just the whole diversity and the whole range. And that's where we are not working just by ourselves as architects, but we work with our clients, with interior designers, specialists in different disciplines to create that holistic experience. And that user experience we try to create across different scales. So from a neighborhood scale, where you really look at the surrounding, the public spaces, to a building scale, like for the TU Delft building that we did, the Knowledge Center, or for the interior experience. Like, what do you experience from the interior of a building that connects you to the place where you are staying? And last but not least, we go down to the product scale. Like for the residences in Munich, we developed the furniture as a modular system. So learning from these different scales gave us the possibility actually to work on hotel projects that are like the one in Melbourne, really embedded in the city context. Okay. Or like in Dubai, it's a singular tower that has a Mandarin Oriental hotel in it. Or within a mixed-use complex, really look at what's the vertical circulation in the hotel and how does it connect to the mixed use in the Conrad at Raffles City. But also down to the villa scale, like really luxury villas. So it's a very wide range. And to try to give an answer to Ajay, I was looking at what could be 3 concepts of hospitality that are based on unique customer journeys, that basically embrace the context of the location, but also the scale and the typology. And by coincidence, we are at the moment quite active in South Korea. So there's a small-scale villas that are embedded on this island and integrated with the landscape to have a view connect to the sailing. There's another island in South Korea that has a bigger hotel connected, like completing the rock, basically. It's part of the rock. But there's also a hotel in a much bigger scale in the city center of Seoul, overlooking it and bringing always this water and nature and these elements in. It can be very inhuman in a way when you see them on the renderings. You have no relation to it. But what we find important is that they set the right framework, and they set the right framework for what we call the design principles. And those are basically creating a public boulevard or public communal spaces in the city or the context it's embedded, but also creating community spaces at height, like in the Istanbul example, but also creating maybe patios, sheltered spaces, smaller, like in the hotel residence in South Korea, but also inside the architecture. So really creating sort of a network of spaces that all create communities at different scale levels. And interact with the users, but also with the clients and designers, because all these spaces, this framework of architecture, is also meant to last longer than maybe the interior infill or how it is used. So it has to be a future-proof framework.
Thank you for this short masterclass even. It's very nice to see these examples. I take away the word context, looking at the community, and obviously the human element of what is the building designed for. Yeah, no, very nice to see. Edward, could I ask you to also show your slides?
Once it's designed, it's up to us to then make it come alive, really. Huh? Yeah. And ask the question, gosh, talk about amazing hotels, where do we really start? Just a very quick introduction. I'm based here now in Brussels. Corinthia, a group which is actually having a lot of momentum within that same design space, with new properties coming up in New York, in Italy, in Bucharest, and here in Brussels, where they've taken an old Palace hotel and would really like to move the needle with regards to luxury as far as this destination is concerned. But the world's most amazing hotels, it made me think of these, first of all, because 25 years ago, it was pretty amazing, the Burj Al Arab. 24-karat gold, suites that started at 180 square meters. The Marina Bay Sands, 2,500 rooms, 30 million visitors a year. It is still pretty amazing for quite a few people. And then we found these, and I thought, oh gosh, well, Sky Lodge in Peru, there's 3 of these things hanging over 400 meters of nothing. They make you crawl for like 400 meters to get there, and when I read that it included dinner and wine, I was a little bit worried about how to get there at the end of the evening. But the Ice Hotel, quite spectacular. At the end of the summer, there's nothing left, and they rebuild it again every year to have 12 suites and around 15 to 20 rooms. And then now Saudi Arabia, as in we're talking about projects that are over $1 trillion worth of investment. The whole of the Red Sea development, Saudi Arabia 2030. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this program, but Google it. It's really out of this world what they're creating in these locations. Ulula, I mean, Habitat in general, I think, is a group to really watch if you're interested in how luxury evolves over time. 2 of their projects. The one in Neom, which is on the northern, well, more or less northern tip of the Red Sea. It's a bit like the Game of Thrones, I found when I looked at it, because they're going to have all of these different buildings, very futuristic, but pretty spectacular. Apparently the number 1 at this moment in time, Passalacqua, 24 suites on Lake Como, voted by Condé Nast. My memories of my time in Seychelles, North Island, 20-something years ago, and still is, one with 11 villas. They're all 400 square meters large. They have a whole program related around ecology already 20 years ago. So weren't they pretty amazing at that time? Le Georges V and the view of Paris. Forestis in the Dolomites with probably the one of the most refined examples of how simplicity can become luxury as soon as the environment is right. So it made me think, okay, well, which are the elements that are spectacular or grand, and what is it that really makes something amazing in the end of the day? And I very quickly came to energy, maybe also because that's where I wanted to go for myself, because this is where we as hoteliers can make a difference. We can create energy. Look at what LVMH does with their brand Cheval Blanc and Belmont, of course, which they purchased, and how slowly but surely they've integrated some of their brands, their fashion brands, even their houses like Dior and Guerlain, into the different offerings that they have. Soho House does it brilliantly well. Community, how do we create energy together? How do we give place a soul? And the short of it, in the end, as far as we can influence, we will inherit the most beautiful building with spectacular views or not. But it is around to the people that I believe that will make something which is great, really amazing. That's my bit for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Edward. Thank you also for the short history lesson. It was good to see that as well. But nice to see that some of the hotels are still amazing. But we see also new things coming up, and especially the people part is something you mentioned as being a big element of making a hotel unique. So let's see what Pauline has to offer on what the hotspots are of our time now.
So I'm more from the guest perspective. And Ajay asked me to collect 3 of my favorite hotels. It's super hard to choose 3. So what I did is to choose 3, which I can tell a lot about for you, which you can use as a hotelier, maybe. Well, that's my site. This is a beautiful place to stay in the south of France. Bit of my photos. And I like to start with the Audo in Copenhagen. And I will tell you why I think this is an interesting hotel concept. This is created by Norm Architects. And what they did is they created the hotel around the senses. And that means that I've stayed here in 2019, and now even 5 years afterwards, I can still smell the scent of the wood in the rooms when I think back of my stay. So you can really bring something home with you. Another interesting trend is that design brands like this, Audo Copenhagen, VIP, also does that. They are expanding into a hotel. You also see ceramic designers like Laurence. She just opened a Riad in Marrakesh. And even shoe designers like Christian Louboutin, who opened a hotel in Portugal. And the interesting thing about this hotel is that they opened in Noordhaven, not in the city center of Copenhagen, but in the outskirts. A year before the metro opened over there, so they really had a interesting, they can make value in the neighborhood as a starting point. And nowadays, well, you have the metro, but there are also coffee places, restaurants, a lot to do. So it's interesting to not only look into the city center, but also to different areas or even outside of the city. Number 2 is Casa de Las Flores in Lanzarote. This is an interesting concept because the owner used to work in 5-star hotels all around the world. And he wanted to have something smaller, so he decided, he is from Tenerife, but he decided to create a 5-room hotel with 5-star service. So you can ask him to unpack your luggage if you're there. They have a pillow menu and the bedding is fantastic. And if you're staying in one of the suites, you get a scented candle with you home, so you can really take the scent with you. But they also host a breakfast every morning at 9 a.m. in the breakfast area, so people can really have a sort of community feeling. He did it together with a textile designer, so it's really unique, these kind of things she made. And nowadays, of course, we love the Scandinavian design, but you see it in a lot of hotels, and it's even more interesting to see the local design, food, etc. So that's really nice of this one. And then the third one is the Hoy Hotel in Paris, a really nice hotel with a focus on well-being. It's really hard if you have a hotel and you have a gym to get people use it, or you offer yoga classes. So what they did is they bring in a very famous yoga school from Paris. So you have the locals coming there and you have the guests who can join for a class. Sustainability is really important in this hotel, and a thing you see quite often is now is merchandise. Every hotel is almost a brand by itself. They have their own shop. And you can buy a hoodie which says, I've been here in the hotel. So that's, basically it. So, and this is my book coming out, but we will discuss it later. I'll give you this.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you as well, Pauline. Also, maybe some keywords what I took away from you is also the community and the people part.
Yeah.
But also you talk about the branding and the merchandising and extensions and working together and that and also the last thing you said, I've been here, kind of merchandise is also there.
Yeah, so you don't wear like the Louis Vuitton big logos, but you share that you've been to a super beautiful hotel in the south of France. So that's even more important to show.
Okay, so it is important that actually people can show that they've been to this amazing place, this amazing experience.
Yeah.
What are other ways that people show that or want to show that?
Well, if you look at hotels, I think they give a sort of 360 degrees experience nowadays. So you check into a hotel, and it's not only the merchandise; it's like a complete package with a hand soap. They work with a scent maker and the design, food. Everything comes together, and so you take that with you as a guest when you leave the hotel. Don't know if that's what you mean.
So what I understand is that you that hotels really think about all the details.
Yes.
And also think about how can people take away a part of that experience.
Exactly. Yeah.
Back home.
Yeah.
When they go back home, what is it that they can help them to remember that experience?
Yeah. Not only remember and wear it as a sweater or a cap. But also have inspiration to do it at home because you like the smell or you like a certain wooden paneling, for example. So hotels really have a sort of inspirational...
and the hotel as an inspiration for home.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's a nice one. That's a good one to take along.
Yeah,
great. And also getting back to your presentations as well, maybe also Astrid, checking in with you. We had a few keywords that came back, right? The human design was there, the community was there. Are there any other trends that you see that are important when you help design hotels that you're looking into?
I think it also comes back in Pauline's presentation. No? It's a holistic concept. And yes, it's the bedroom and all those things. But if the auto wouldn't be in Nordhafen, it wouldn't work that way because it's an upcoming area. You want to be there. Yeah. So it's like a place within the place. So, and that's what I meant with Transcaler as well. Like every little piece has to sort of fit to that identity that you're going to design. And for architects, sometimes in the beginning, you don't know who will be the operator, what will be the brand, what will happen there. So the only thing that you can try to understand is who is the potential user. And that's not one type, but so why would people even go to Copenhagen or to Lanzarote? Yeah. What would they do there? So try to imagine that, to think, what could add something to their stay that it makes it worth to stay a day longer or 2 days longer, and
so that's why you have
what in the method we try to imagine, like the skiing in Neo Mountain, for example. So what else than skiing would someone do that goes there, and then create the program around. Yeah. And it's not that you have to do that in isolation. You need like the input from all different perspectives to be able to see that, because in the end it's also about being economic about it and making someone invest in it and believe in the dream and putting the puzzle together. So it's a sort of massaging it on all scales, considering diverse type of users, and then also not everything that I like this year I will like next year. So it also needs to be flexible enough to change over time in a sustainable way. Yeah.
But those are a lot of demands, I hear, but they all make sense. So I do get it, but I can imagine that process is not easy. Or
no, but it's a creative process. No creative process is easy.
Good point. Edward, going to you, because you're busy now with Corinthia. What are things that you take along to make the Corinthia special, that's important for you?
Well, where Astrid is trying to put the puzzle together, the first thing that we do is pull it apart again.
Okay.
Because I think gone is the time that a hotel was a single unit and you would just have one message to try to sell the place. To get our returns on the investments that have been made, we really see it as a lifestyle hub. In our case, a luxury lifestyle hub, where we sell rooms and we sell suites. But let's start there because we sell them differently. Whether we sell a room at 40 square meters or a suite at over 300 square meters is not the same use, or at least not the same occasion. And then we have identified 8 individual products, foremost for the local market. But we'd really like for the client to have a special reason to come to each and one of those. So restaurant 1 is a more casual restaurant, a brasserie done with a great Belgian chef. The gastronomic restaurant, great chef, but a different concept. The bar, a great person known for the creativity in bars, a great brand for the spa. So communicate with the locals, to which extent they're very much a part of what we would like to do in the future. Create, in our sense, a certain club model, because we know that this interests different people to want to be part of it. And make sure that they're each different. It used to be, oh, let's make sure that it all more or less looks the same, all of the same uniforms, more or less the same ambience, the same music, but it is splitting it up in those little elements and seeing them individually and running them individually that we believe will create this energy and give it a soul.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Interesting, you even talk about a hub and not a hotel. I found that an interesting observation from your line. And you also say that we have these different clients with different needs. So again, coming back to what Astrid is also saying, and you're also really connecting to the local community and trying to get them in. So that's also very important, even as a 5-star luxury hotel. You want to have that connection with the local community.
Very much so.
Very much so. Okay, so these are good things to know. As the things are designed. But they don't always work out well. I'll give you one example. Even last week, I was in India, and I went to this very sleek Zen hotel. They had a very nice spa. While going to the spa, I bumped my head to the glass wall, glass door, because I couldn't see it was a door. No. It was immaculately clean, which I don't often see, but there was no sign that it was a door. For me, that's an example of design going bad. Yeah. But I can imagine that there might be other examples that you might think of that also in idea would work, but in actual do not. So does any one of you have an example you want to share on that?
Well, I think there's a thing with the sink in the bathroom. And I always think, is this a man who designed it? Because you come there with your toiletry bag and you do a sort of puzzle to get all of your day cream and your foundation out. So some space around a sink is really, feels good to have. Yeah.
Good practical thing, yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
Astrid?
There are, of course, always many things that don't work or could work better, but maybe sometimes I think we are constrained by cultural prejudices or rules and brand guidelines. American brands, for example, they always want the water bottles in the rooms, and often plastic water bottles. So in a country where you can drink tap water, why wouldn't you offer that to your clients? And that seems to be, no, it's in our brand guidelines. And then you're thinking, yeah, but it doesn't make sense with all that we talk about sustainability, like the comfort of the use. And there are many more like this. And I think sometimes it's not a mistake, but it's that we are stuck in our own rules and what we learned. And maybe we need to take ourselves out and think fresh about some of those things again.
Okay, good example as well. Yeah. Edward, anything you would like to add from your years of experience?
No, but it's always nice to be there before it has been completed. I've been on this project now for more than a year. We hope to open towards the end of the year. And of course, you'll catch certain things, certain practical points, but also on concept. To give an example, in one of the spaces in the front, we have the retail spaces. If you try to picture what I just show you as the facade of the property, they wanted to have a cigar shop. Now, cigar shop now or cigar shop in 5 or 10 years' time. Is this still a concept whereby we believe that this is going to make the guests say, "Wow, well, this was amazing"? Or can we give that space a different purpose so that it contributes to the overall experience of the guest in a slightly different way? So gone is the chocolate shop and gone is the cigar shop, and we have given a different purpose to these spaces.
Yeah, yeah. So also going on along with the trends and thinking ahead of what might be
you tend to think of in the present and from your experiences, but what I think we need to challenge ourselves to do is think ahead, because cigar smoking, even though we might still have a lot of people that like it now, January 2025 in Belgium at least, the laws are changing. You're no longer allowed to smoke in public parks. It's good to educate yourself on what is going to happen, and already we cannot promote it. So why invest in something that you know is going to be short-lived?
Yeah, good example there as well, yeah.
I also think maybe the love story between a hotelier and an architect or an interior designer has to be really strong. Because sometimes I went to Paris to a hotel, and you know that they worked with a famous interior designer, but it used to be another hotel, and they took it over, and you see, okay, it's a beautiful a chair, but the whole the soul of the place is not there. So I think really good hotels have good like a love relation between those two.
Or have the opportunity to still introduce some of that love into a project. For those spaces that I spoke about earlier, we've got a fantastic agency called GA Design from London, and they do the most brilliant and amazing hotels around the world. Mind you, you wanted to have a personality and a bit of a character, and break that general picture just a little bit, een beetje schuren, as we say in Dutch, so it gets an identity. So we found 2 separate Belgian designers to actually do those spaces in quite a bit of a different style.
It's nice to have that interaction already at an early stage of interior design and hotel operations. But I can imagine hotel operations also change in time, and maybe what was intended can no longer be executed, right? That happens as well. Yeah. One of the things I would like to talk about as well is community. We mentioned community is important. How to get the locals in. I'm assuming that your staff, your team, will play a very important role into that. So maybe, Edward, could you explain how that works for you, or maybe experiences from the past, because obviously it's still opening, but...
Yes. Yeah, well, we're 7 of us, meanwhile. And actually, I think this is one of the deciding stages, because doing one of these openings, you can reinvent yourself a little bit. You can be a better version of yourself within also the microculture that you're creating. So what have I learned, but what do I really want it to be? And then get people to understand what value we want to create in the process, and share the dream. So it's really, what do we want to build together? And clearly it either appeals to you or absolutely not, because you'll find it unstructured, and the manuals are not quite ready yet. But in the process of wanting to contribute, putting that central, we really believe that you can get a group of individuals that enthusiastic and that involved, that it becomes, they're each part owner of what it is that we're making. If you put your heart into it, and if you've been part of a process, it becomes part of you, that what you're creating, you care a bit more. And clearly that's where we would really like to make the difference. It is not just in quantity of people. Yes, we'll have 250 wonderfully talented people, but it is how do they feel? How are they really wanting to be part of what it is that we're creating?
But also part of what you're creating is that interaction between the guests, the local community, and obviously the employees will be part of that connection.
If you ask me honestly, what makes a hotel amazing, it is energy. It is how can we get the interaction between the individuals to be different enough to be interesting, but also to be like-minded enough to feel reassured in certain ways.
Is that also something else that you looked into with designing the hotel?
Yes,
maybe you can explain on that?
Because it's, yes, we look at the user journey of the guest, but even more importantly nowadays is the experience of the employee. And to work for the brand and to every day represent that brand. So we look at that sort of standard in a way, because there is from our clients also sometimes resources are scarce, we don't know how do we best optimize it, but the best is if people have passion for their job, the people that work there, and feel connected to the brand. And that's also by creating good canteens, good spaces for them. So with daylight, pleasant spaces that connect also to the concept. And often maybe that has been neglected in the past, but it's equally important to make a holistic experience.
Yeah. Now, I can imagine. I've also worked in hotels where, the staff quarters are somewhere in the back downstairs without light. And I think that's changing. People look at it differently now. Could I still check in one thing? Because you also had these great examples from Korea. And I was wondering, is that maybe different there in that part of the world? Or do they look at it the same way?
No, it's very differently. Asia is also different in different parts. And we have learned an awful lot on that, but it's of course also not so different because international travelers are coming there. So they want to cater also to those international travelers, and they are very proud also of their local products, local food. There are also there's 3 restaurants as always, but one is Korean, one is American, one is European, French most of the time. So there are certain things that are sort of standard, but what we see on these 2 different islands and in Seoul is that they really try to incorporate the local knowledge, and there are a lot of technology, because Samsung, all those companies, they have the robots that cook in the kitchen and that prepare food or do things in the back of the house, and that's quite amazing to see that. Okay, there is technology used to support and make things more fluent, but in the end, it's about the personal touch, also the service, what you have shown in those as well, a small number of rooms, and even if it's a big number of rooms, to look for the personal service and cater to the different customers. Yeah. And that's there's fierce competition out there, and.
So finally, the human connection makes the difference, right?
Yeah.
That's what you say, yeah.
I think I saw a really nice example to connect both the guests, the staff, and the locals at the Little Beach House in Garaf. It's part of Soho House, and they do every year a beach cleanup. And guests, staff, and locals, they come together, clean up the beach, and afterwards the hotel is providing for a lunch together. So you're building community, and you're doing something for the environment. So
the really nice example of working together. I'm looking into the audience to see if there's any questions you might have to our panel members. Something you would like to know, maybe of the designs they showed. Yeah, do we have a question? Wait for the mic, please. Thank you.
Hi. Thank you all for a very informative session. This might not be a popular opinion, but when we're talking about design hotels and luxury hotels and community management, or rather community building, don't you think that there's a bit of a kind of non-connection there, considering the fact that most luxury travelers are looking for more privacy, more design, and much more luxury, and very nice things and beautiful things to look at and to be part of, but less about communities and locals and things like that?
Okay.
At least from some of these really high-end hotels that you're talking about?
I think Edward wants to answer this one.
And I'd love to answer it. I think it is all about authenticity. In our case, we would really like to show the visitor from outside of Belgium that this is not just an historic hotel from the past, but this is where we live at present. So the client will find all the comforts and the privacy in their private quarters, if we just want to refer to it as that. Yet, an interesting group of possibly like-minded individuals that are there also in differences, in different groups, so to speak. To feel the interaction between them. Because the opposite would be, you would come into a hotel whereby they would all be visitors. And it would be very peaceful and quiet on the one side. But I think in the end, we all go to the one restaurant where maybe the food isn't all brilliant and the service every now and then, but everybody is there. And we love it, and we go home, and we were packed in like sardines, but we said, oh, we had such a wonderful evening. I really think it is this energy that excites us. And as a visitor coming anywhere, to get a reassurance that, hey, you made the right choice. You'll find a group of people that are local, but that are a little bit like you, and maybe a little bit different, but you have something in common. You can find the peace and quiet. There will be zones where you can have it to yourself, as it were. But you can also be part of what really happens in Brussels, in our case, or in the destination.
Yeah. Does that answer your question? Yeah. And maybe to keep in mind as well, where we talk a lot about community building as being important at the moment, I think if you look at the grand hotels of even maybe a century ago, all kinds of people went there, right? I mean, locals actually had their banquets and parties at these grand hotels. So I think we're probably maybe going back towards that era again. Yeah.
Yeah, very true. Yeah.
More questions? Yeah, the back.
Hi, I have a brief question. I don't mind who answers it. How do you see the role of F&B in hotels and in the different concepts of F&B?
Well, Edward again, or
well, we can do it from a design point of view first, or
design,
from your opinion.
Maybe from the experience.
The role of food and beverage.
Yeah, so food and beverage.
Yeah, well, there's a lot to tell. What I like seeing is certain pop-up concepts. So sometimes you, of course, can open a restaurant with a certain chef who is there for ages. But you also, in London, for example, we have the restaurant called Carousel, and they invite every month a different chef from a different country. So if you like to, it saves you a lot of flights and travel time, and then you can stop in your local hotel to have dinner at that restaurant from France or from the US. So that's really nice.
Nice example. Yeah. Maybe others want to add as well?
I think from the design side, there's not one recipe because it depends where your hotel is set. If it's in the urban context and you have many restaurants around, maybe it's less important, or maybe it is exactly more important because you're fitting in and having a top restaurant at the top location. And if it's in a remote space, you want to still offer something, but not over offer. So I think it's the finding the right balance with the size, with the context, if you have a neighborhood, and what you can offer.
How do we give it its proper identity in our case? Within Corinthia, whether it's in London, where I work with Tom Carriage, big name for the UK. The Italian property would have Carlo Gracco looking after the restaurants. In our case, we'll have two great Belgian chefs. Each its own restaurant. It should have its own team, its own identity, its own P&L. We're there to, in the end, have a commercial activity, so it should be profitable. And it should just be full. Because, again, there you'll have that energy, the people coming through, and ultimately what's the goal? That people book for next time before they leave, either for that restaurant or for one of the other outlets that you have available.
Yeah, maybe also in addition, if I think of my own situation, I would love to have coffee in a hotel where I feel at home, right? That would be great. Unfortunately, that's not always the case, but I think there's opportunities there, especially if you want to get the local community in as well. I think, which is one of the goals that we hear about a lot. I think we're ending our session today, unless there's any more questions or things that the panel members would like to say still.
The two questions, I believe.
Oh, yeah. Oh, one more, yeah?
It's me again. On the design side of things, when you look at things besides F&B, retail, gym, meeting rooms, when designing a new hotel or a new property, do you look at the multifaceted part of it? Are you bringing in more experiences, or rather different... Sorry, I'm a little bit nervous with the microphone. But what other institutions can you bring in to expand on the experience of new properties? What are some of the things that you brought in besides retail into a hotel or meeting rooms?
Anybody?
Yeah, for example, the example that I showed, that was about the athletes. There's a lot of diverse sports for summer and winter time, and then changing equipment. So, and you can extend on that with climbing and whatever. But then it's a very dedicated and specific example. But things around wellness, health, well-being, also that people can have resting places that are not full of people, but silence is also a luxury nowadays. We have seen also hotels that wanted to have community kitchens, for example, for people that want to have their muesli in the morning and don't want to sit in the restaurant. That's luxury for some people as well. So I think it's things from daily life that are coming into the hotel world much more. It's like what you say, having a coffee and you don't feel like you're in a hotel, but you feel comfortable and feel yourself. That those things are more and more. Like also, if people travel with the families and children, if there is some sort of daycare or entertainment for them, a cinema for kids, and these cultural things are very important for some travelers in some locations.
Yeah, good examples. Thank you for sharing. Was there one more question? Yes, and
Hello. How do you quantify the value of design when you're working with a hotelier?
how do we quantify design? Very big question. Nice to have that at the end, by the way. Huge question, but maybe we can find ways to how you handle that. Astrid, maybe first of all?
To quantify or qualify was your
No,
question?
quantify.
Quantify.
Hello? How do you quantify the value of why design is so important
No, but
to hoteliers?
I think design has to be always functional, but then you can quantify it economically by looking at the economic parameters. How often are the rooms booked? How many square meters do you use for which function? What's then the price of your menu, or what's the price of your room or your extras? And that's a business plan basically. And you could test 3 designs on that business plan, and one will perform better than the other. And it's a cyclic process that we go through with our clients, like basically based on the experience, optimize some of those things, or maybe even leave some things open until the end, like the cigar shop, that you don't know what will it be in 5 years, that you say, okay, it has to be something in that sphere, but what it exactly will be needs to be developed, but you assume a business model to it. And the value of design is that it allows you to do all those things without compromising the main idea. Because if you start fulfilling all these requirements and you have a patchwork, it won't be the holistic experience.
Does that answer your question? Yes? Good. Thank you. Then I would like to round off and ask for a big hand of applause for our panel members. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Good.